What's up, everyone? I'm Teacher T, and today we're going to go through the quotient rule. I'm going to introduce it to you. We're going to go through it nice and slowly, tease it apart. I'm going to make it simplified. I know it looks complicated at first. It's a big formula, but don't worry. I promise I'm going to break it down nice and easy, and by the end, you're going to be able to go through it no problem. I've even provided some practice problems and solutions in the description of this video after that. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's say you have a function h of x, and that's equal to two functions, a fraction of two functions, f of x over g of x. To find the derivative of that function, h prime of x, it's going to equal, now you draw a nice big long line here for your fraction. It's going to equal the derivative of the numerator, so f prime of x, times the denominator left alone, g of x here, minus the numerator left alone, so just f of x as it is, times the derivative of the denominator here, g prime of x, so that's the derivative of g of x. All of it is going to be over the denominator squared, g of x squared. So that's it. That's your product rule. This is it. Now, it looks kind of big, but we've seen something like this before. Now, I'll show you that in a minute. If we drop the x's, it looks even simpler. So the derivative of a fraction of two functions, f over g, derivative of that, equals f prime g, so the derivative of the numerator times the denominator left alone, minus f g prime, the numerator left alone times the derivative of the denominator. And all of that is over the denominator g squared. So f prime g minus f g prime. You might have seen this numerator part before. If you look at the product rule, the derivative of a product of two functions, f times g, that's going to equal to the derivative of the first function, f prime times the second function left alone, plus the first function left alone times the derivative of the second function. So f prime g plus f g prime. This numerator here in the quotient rule, it's exactly the same, except instead of plus, we have a minus. And one way to remember that is you're dividing, that's a line, so you got to subtract. That's a line right here. So that's it. So that's it in all its glory. Now in class, you might see it in a little more complicated looking form, although it's exactly the same. You might see it like this. It's called Leibniz notation. So your prof might write this on the board, and what this says is d dx, so the derivative with respect to x of f of x divided by g of x, so that's the derivative of this fraction here. And these are all functions of one variable, in this case x. It's going to equal to the derivative of the first function, so that's df of x over dx, times the denominator left alone, g of x, minus the numerator left alone, times the derivative of the denominator, so d dx of g of x. And all of that is divided by the denominator squared, g of x squared here. So if you see it in this notation, it's honestly the same thing, f prime g minus f g prime all over g squared. Perfect. Okay, let's do a couple examples. I'm going to put this over here, and let's say we have a function h of x equals, let's say, x cubed over 1 minus x squared. Yeah. Now, to do the derivative of this, I highly recommend making a quick table, because what you need to know your f, your g, your f prime, and your g prime. So let's write that out. We'll write our table here. F prime of x we need to know g, and we need to know g prime of x. So let's fill this in. So f of x, that's your numerator, that's your x cubed here, so that's just this part right here, x cubed. The derivative of f is just using the power rule. The exponent comes in front, so 3 times x squared. We subtract the exponent by 1. G of x is the denominator, 1 minus x squared, so we'll just write that there, and then we'll write down the denominator of g of x using the power rule again, and the derivative of a constant is 0. Plus, now this is another power rule, the exponent comes in front, so that's 2 times x, and we subtract the exponent by 1 using the power rule. I do have an excellent power rule video if you want to check that out to brush up on that. So that's our table. And now what do? We write down proudly, so the derivative of f prime of x, we just plug it into this equation up here. Let's draw a nice big line here, and we start from the top. So f prime, we got a f prime is 3x squared, so we'll plug that in here, 3x squared, times g, which is the denominator left alone, so 1 plus x cubed, minus, because this is the quotient rule, so we want to minus it, the f of x left alone, x cubed right there, times the derivative of the denominator, so that's g of x, g prime of x over 2x, and all of that's going to be divided by g of x squared. So 1 plus x squared, and all of that is squared. So that's it. That's the quotient rule in all its glory. Your prof may or may not ask you to simplify. Many profs on the exam don't, so don't waste your time simplifying if the exam isn't asking you to, or it tells you do not simplify. But that's it. That's the form. You write down your f prime, your g prime, find out what they are, and then literally plug it into this equation. Good. Hope you enjoyed it. So derivative of f over g is f prime g minus f g prime over g squared. That's it. Thanks for watching. I'm Teacher T. Like I said before, I've got some excellent questions and solutions in the description below, so check that out, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.